We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at WGNSradio.com. This is the WGNS Action Line, talking with Rutherford County newsmakers about what matters most to you. Now, your host, Bart Walker.
Well, good morning to you. Welcome into the Action Line from WGNS. This morning we are talking law and order, and we're focusing on a lot of the great work done by the Murfreesboro Police Department. A whole lot happening here in the community. It just seems to rear up and move forward every day. Visiting with us from the Murfreesboro Police Department this morning, we have Captain Clayton Williams. Clayton, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bart.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
The smiling face of Larry Flowers.
Good morning, Bart. How are you?
Doing great. Good to see all of you this morning. We still hear so much positive about the news center that you have, the active, the real-time news center, where you're really gathering information as it happens. That has to be exciting to see that coming together.
Yeah, it's been we mentioned a couple of times, has been a long-term project that's been, a lot of times you forget about that, a lot of the work and a lot of the pre-planning and vision really from leadership, not only within the department but within the city, to get that to come into completion. And now we have it, and it's just a great tool for our investigative teams to be able to put pieces back together, help solve crimes, and just be on the forefront of ready and doing the best that we can for the community to take care of those things and that matter most, that they want a safe environment and a good quality of life place to live. And it's just another tool in the toolbox that allows us to tend those needs and equip our people to do the best job that they can.
Larry, as a person who has been in the news field, this real-time crime center is making a noticeable difference with your area.
Yeah, definitely, Bart. The men and women that work in that real-time crime center, if they see any particular major arrest or anything, or they assisted, our criminal investigation division with, they will reach out to me and say, hey, the license plate reader was able to capture this vehicle. And it's just really, really, really great that we can get that information out and share it with the community to show how successful that real-time crime center is.
That is, it's paying for itself every day.
Definitely. Definitely.
It's reducing crime in the area, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think a lot of people come to Murfreesboro. There's many reasons, and I think that we see evidence of that through city leadership that are committed to public safety and make a significant investment each year into what it costs to maintain the departments and be on the cutting edge, and because we want to provide that service to the highest level possible to the folks in the community. And yes, it is an investment, and there is a cost associated with it.
Right.
But the reward, the dividends, we feel like are worth it. And and if it was ever the opposite, then we would look at something else. But right now, this seems to be kind of the future of law enforcement, at least that technology piece.
Yeah, definitely. It's called intelligence-led policing, being able to use all these different tools. As Clayton said, a lot of more tools in our toolbox. Just a few stats from last year with our real-time crime center. In 2024, the real-time crime center experienced over 400 successes. That means arrests, leads were able to lead to warrant, and then stops that were associated with our LPRs or our gunshot detection alert that helped recover over 55 vehicles last year. And our real-time crime center and our crime data analysis unit personnel, they assisted with clearing over 200 criminal cases, ranging from, minor hit and runs, traffic accidents to homicides. So they really play a part with assisting our officers and our investigators with solving crime. And Clayton can expound more if he likes.
Yeah, I would just echo what Larry said there. It's not something, and I know Chief is always real sensitive about this. It's not that we're actively, spying into the public. It's just something it's a data source. It's a resource that we can go to when we're looking for a particular person of interest or a crime that's just occurred. I know, Bart, sometimes you've talked about some of the ones that, for example, whether it be shoplifting or a theft that's occurred, and we get a vehicle description and a license plate or a partial plate. This is just something that before we didn't have that. You may get lucky and run across the car, one of the officers that may happen to travel that way, but as we know, the further that time lapse is between the time of the offense and the time that we can respond, the chances of catching that vehicle get slimmer, and because oftentimes it might be folks that are not from this area, so it's not that it's going to remain here. They're trying to get to the interstate or somewhere else, and also it's something that is expandable, and with our partnerships with other law enforcement agencies, even in Rutherford County and in the Middle Tennessee area that have these same tools, it's able to share that information so that database and information it gets more vast, so that we can help each other solve crimes that are occurring in those communities.
I think it's been interesting to listen how the data is collected also. In addition to data as you've described, you keep information about the bullets, what guns they're from. You're finding out, have those guns been used in other crimes in other cities, and you can sort of track all of that.
Yeah, that NIBIN program, it stands for the National Integrated Ballistics Network, National Integrated Ballistics Network, Information Network. I'm sorry. I'll get corrected on that here in a minute. I'm sure somebody will write in. But it's through the ATF, and that's a program we started. It was shortly after we moved into the building, and we have a center. I think Chattanooga has a center, and it's kind of a regional thing that's approved by the ATF, and it's just kind of a catalog, if you will. It's and that study of those those fired shell casings, they're a lot like fingerprints in that different firearms leave unique markings on those, and as we're able to collect that, whether it be from a crime scene or that maybe they're just found by somebody, as we're able to collect that and enter those into that database, oftentimes it's not right away, but later on, when we find that same weapon that's used another time in a crime, it helps connect that puzzle, if you will, back to where that was at that time. Has this been used in other crimes? And then when it's found with somebody, that helps to develop a person of interest, if you will, that may be responsible for some of those crimes. So yeah, it's really fascinating stuff. It is.
Are you ever really concerned or surprised at how a crime in Memphis or in Chattanooga is related to a shooting, say, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and how groups in those cities might have some connection here?
Yeah, we have had some of those in the past, where I know on some of our violent crimes where there is a connection, where it would be a person or a group of persons from another city that would be perpetrating that crime. And there's different reasons for that behind it, but it's mostly, we see that like a lot of times on some of the more violent crimes. But it's why it's more important, though, that law enforcement agencies working together and having partnerships, because it not only affects one community, most times it's something that affects multiple communities. So the more that we can work together and have information sharing, and we're fortunate in Tennessee, we have great partnerships with our other law enforcement agencies, and we work together very well. about sharing information when one of them needs something. So that's really the power of networking there, and something that we always strive to be a good partner in.
Very definitely. And one of the listeners here has just sent us a text about anything new on getting a better control of traffic. I know. Speaking of traffic, Larry, you had a big one yesterday, traffic-wise.
Yeah.
Sure, at South Church Street and Butler Drive. No, that's a pretty congested area with, trucks going in and out of the pilot. A dump truck and what we believe to be an 18-wheeler had a collision. Of course, the fuel tank on the dump truck was punctured, and about several gallons of fuel spilled on the streets. And what the problem that caused is, we had gotten rain, and so the fire department did a great job in coming to contain that spill. Rutherford County Emergency Management Agency also responded to the scene to assist. I spoke with Chris Clark, last night, and he pretty much was giving an update in terms of, how long they will be on the scene to make sure everything was, safe for drivers after all the trucks and everything were removed. One of the things that he was concerned about is after they did the cleanup and with the rain, that the roads could still be slick. And so, they tried to put down all the necessary, what's that called, Clayton, the dry?
You're talking about the oil dry?
The oil dry on the street to try to prevent, it from being slick. So just want to remind people to be careful, especially in that particular area when driving.
We had another incident yesterday, and I don't know whether Murfreesboro Police handled this or not, but I'm seeing a lot of these cars catching on fire. Why is it the time of year, or is it problems with vehicles? What's causing cars to catch on fire?
We really don't have I'll be honest with you, we don't have a lot of those. I see them a lot on the interstate sometimes, but... And
that's where this one
was.
Well, actually, this one, I guess it was on the interstate.
When in my experience, those ones that we do, a lot of times it's someone either overheats the car to the point where it gets so hot that it does, cause a fire. It's usually some type of mechanical failure, but it's kind of rare that one just catches on fire for no reason. And I've worked a lot of crashes, and a lot of times, people would think, I know in the movies, it seems like back when I was a kid, the shows you would watch, every time there was a car crash, the car just burst into flames, and I since learned that, that's a little more for dramatic. I know it can happen, but, most of those are designed to where, especially after a crash, a lot of times the fuel is shut off to the car, and we're fortunate that, but usually it takes either a pretty severe impact, pretty severe collision, or like you said, somebody if they're not maintaining the car and don't keep it up to par, and it overheats and causes that problem.
Our phone number is 615-893-1450. You can talk or text. In fact, texting is probably the easiest thing. We just ask that you don't try texting while you are driving. That's not only dangerous, it's also against the law.
Yeah.
Do you find people still doing that?
It's I know when I talk to the task force guys, especially, it's really frustrating, especially like in school zones when they target those. I think unfortunately the phone has become the new, it's just the new, I don't know, norm that people will just do not put down. And it's really sad because as young drivers enter that world, it's hard enough as it is, without the experience, but just adding another distraction in there. But it's not just young people. We see it young, old, adult. It's all across. So, it's like seat belts. We'd ask that people wouldn't do that. And we'll enforce it as needed, but it's until people just kind of change behavior, unfortunately, it's just not going to go away. And it's sad because driving is so dangerous. All it takes is a split second to not be paying attention, and someone could be hurt seriously, and we just want to avoid that at all costs.
I'm glad you brought up seat belts, because that's something that has been around for decades now, and for some reason still has not caught on as being the normal thing for people to do. I guess I'm lucky. My father-in-law was gung-ho on seat belts, and he would if you didn't have the proper ones, he would get, and this was in the late 60s, early 70s, back when you didn't find them in cars. He would put them in.
Wow.
But you still, in fact, we had a fatal crash in the past week or so, in which a rollover person ejected and passed away. A young person. Sad to see that.
Yeah, it's there again, it's been around so long. I was talking with it was funny, we talked about people, like you said, getting hurt, and I mentioned to my wife the other day, I said, do you remember in the late 80s, early 90s, there was, I know Ford did it, and Nissan, I know, did it for a little while. Do you remember the cars that they would put when you sat down, like the seatbelt was already on this track, and it would like come over the shoulder belt anyway, and then you just had to put the lap belt. So I don't know if something like that's the answer. Where, you think about people that get DUIs. A lot of them have to get those breathalyzers. Maybe the car doesn't go without the seatbelt. I don't know. But people, I'm not one to step on folks' liberty and freedom, and I know a lot of people are really staunch about, hey, I don't want to wear it, and that's okay. But it is against the law, and as you mentioned, if you're in a crash, it can make the difference between life or death, literally. So we would encourage everybody to wear those, especially keep your kids buckled up and teach your young drivers, teenagers in the house when they're in the car and the people in the car with them to avoid that kind of tragedy, wear those seatbelts.
We're going to pause for just a moment. We'll be back, take some more of your questions. We're talking law and order this morning, focusing on the Murfreesboro Police Department. So if you have questions dealing really with Murfreesboro, if there's something that maybe something over in your area that you're concerned with, text it to us and we'll see if we can't get some action for you. 615-893-1450. We will be back.
This is MTSU President Sidney McPhee. You're listening to WGNS, your local connection to Blue Raider Athletics.
WGNS AM, FM, online.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. Are you ready to take control of your energy usage and save money? Download the MyMTE app to track your energy consumption, pay your bill, and even report outages right from your phone. It's free and available now in iOS and Android.
Did ancient Babylon shape today's churches? The book Influence of Babylon from Leon Daniels, host of The Truth Will Set You Free on Sundays, reveals the shocking connection through Rome. Discover the truth, Influence of Babylon. Get your copy today, now on Amazon.
Good morning. We're still dealing with a few rain showers out here in certain parts of the Nashville area, Middle Tennessee in general. 24 still remains busy, but it's moving westbound. 24 out through the Antioch area coming in from Murfreesboro. It's stacked up over here at times with some volume on 40 coming west and there at Donaldson Pike as you work your way in from the Mount Juliet area. Hey, Princess Hot Chicken has live entertainment tonight starting at 6 o'clock. Check out the menu today. Order online, princesshotchicken.com. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Hi, this is Peter Demas. Join our family at Demas's Restaurant. So many people buy so many different things. I go out to eat and I like eating steak, where my wife will end up getting our salmon. Our salmon is cut fresh, so she loves our salmon. It's one of those places that you can go, you can get pastas or chicken, the kids love it. Get what you want at Demas's Restaurant and not be limited just to one or two items. Join our family at Demas's Restaurant. 1115 Northwest Broad Street in Murfreesboro.
Here at Animal City in Murfreesboro, we are your go-to for everything cold-blooded. Whether it's geckos or snakes or tortoises, we've got a great selection. Plus, we've got all the tanks, lighting, and food to set up the perfect habitat. If you're not sure where to start, don't worry. Our team knows reptiles and can help you every step of the way. Come see us at 919 Northwest Broad Street in Murfreesboro. We're open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6, and Sunday from 1 to 5. Find us anytime on Instagram at Animal City TN.
A wind advisory remains in effect. We'll see a few spotty rain showers here for this afternoon with cloudy skies. Temperatures steady early, then slowly falling throughout the day. Tonight, cloudy, low of 31. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 52.
I'm a single mom, and as you can imagine, it's a fight sometimes just to get out the door. But when I need new tires or something's wrong with my car, I need to head to someone I can trust. I go to Tire World.
Tire World, we keep your family rolling.
Tire World, locally owned and operated.
Don't throw away old flags. WGNS retires old glory with respect. Bring those tattered Bibles here too. We're more than talk.
Welcome back. We're talking law and order this morning. If you have a question, if you have a comment, love to hear from you. Talk or text, whichever you prefer, at 615-893-1450. 615-893-1450 from the Murfreesboro Police Department. Captain Clayton Williams is with us, along with Public Information Officer Larry Flowers. 615-893-1450. Law and order. That's our topic this morning. We're moving, I think we are. Every time we think we're moving a little bit towards spring, it drops back into winter.
Yeah.
It's getting close. This is the weekend, by the way, that we switch to daylight savings time. Does that impact anything that you do? Traffic, crime, anything?
The traffic patterns change a little bit just because, until people get adjusted to that or their work schedules, it might, people might not know exactly what time to leave, or they may be running a little bit behind. But it really doesn't. Other than that, we don't notice. There's no significant change that impacts us to note. But I'm glad you did talk about summer. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, and I know as people that have families, you have to kind of plan in advance. We're hosting several summer camps this year. We call it junior officer summer camps for kids in elementary age. And there are several of those. Looks like the first one will be starting on June the 9th. Then we'll host that throughout the month of June, those 3 weeks. And then in July, we'll have one the week of July 7th and another the week of July 14th. There is a link on our website, and we can also share that over with you, Bart, if you want to put it up.
Sure.
We'll be glad to send it to you. But it's a week-long camp, and I know, it's, as a person with young kids, it's good to get kids out and doing some things, meeting some other kids, and learning about some things and that are educational, as well as keeps them physically active. So we're glad to do that, and we partner with Murfreesboro City Schools on that. So those details are on our website, and if you have any other further questions about any of those, you can give us a call. But all the information is there. I think the cost is, I believe it's $50. Yeah, so not super expensive, but get you a week of activities for the young kids to have something to do during the summertime, and learn about some things we have officers that participate in that, a lot of our SROs, so they do some educational pieces, but also have a lot of fun. So
that's great news.
Yeah.
And kids can learn something that can benefit them as well.
Exactly. And so, if you're interested in that, let us know.
We're talking this morning about things that are about to happen with the Murfreesboro Police Department. Some exciting things happening. And are there increases in crimes as the weather gets warmer, people getting out more, good folks and criminals as well?
Yeah. I know the one thing, and it's not, we'll touch on this first. We all know during the summer season is travel season for a lot of people. So typically our warmer months are busier for accidents. And so that's pretty common for all years. We see that trend. The only thing I would say with crime, you do have more people out and about. A lot of the problems that we have with vehicle burglaries, they typically happen more in the warmer months. I mean, they do happen sometimes in the summer as well. But that's something we'll probably start back up, asking people to help us out with, making sure vehicles are locked. I do know that in 23 versus 24, we did see a lot. I should say a lot. I'm just going to say we did see a decrease in crimes overall, especially in one of the big ones. And Chief always says this, it can change on the turn of a dime, if you will. But homicide was down significantly, 55%, which luckily that number went from 11 to 5, and we'd like to see that at 0. But we're thankful for that. And same way with all of our Part 1 crimes, or rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, theft. So yeah, it was down to almost 20% overall. So we're excited about that. We know that, again, that's not something that we can say, hey, yeah, look, we're going to decrease crime another so much percent next year. We'll continue our efforts to make sure that we're doing what we can. We'll keep making sure that we're staffed. We'll keep making sure that we have, like we talked about earlier, all the tools and the technology to help keep this, trend. But we also know that a lot of that is dictated by population and just growth and other factors in the community. But we want to make sure we want to do our part.
We have a text here from a listener who lives on Kingwood Drive. And they said, thank you to the city for putting in 3 speed bumps. They were having a real problem with people speeding through there. They said they've slowed down a little bit, but they are still hitting those speed bumps at a pretty good speed. And they're concerned that cars might go out of control and hit a child even more so. So the speed bumps don't always slow people down, or do they not know they're there? They know it pretty quick once they hit them.
Yeah, usually once. I've to the person's question. I mean, I don't know. If there's some folks that just say I don't care, but it may be the fact that they're new. People may not be used to that yet. Usually, after about you go over that once, you're like, oh no, I'll remember that. It's like Alexander Boulevard. I know it's that way now, where they have several of those calming devices where you have to slow down significantly. I have not traveled that part of Kingwood, but I think that's great if that's something that was needed and determined that would be a helpful factor. And usually over time, that will solve that issue.
So it takes a while, I guess, to get used to them.
Well, yeah, because if you haven't been if I haven't been on that road in a while, if I had not heard that, I didn't know they were there. So yeah, until you get there and see that, but it usually does the trick. And I can honestly say I cannot recall of an incident that we've had where someone was traveling over a speed bump and crashed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless they were intentionally running from the police or something like that.
And with 3 of them, that would certainly get your attention.
Yeah, I would think so.
For people who are listening who are having a lot of traffic problems, people speeding, and they're concerned with the safety of the children, what do they need? What's the qualifier for getting the, you call them calming?
Yeah, traffic calming devices. Speed bumps is because sometimes it's not, a speed bump is not the best thing. Sometimes I'm sure that was, I know that those have to be approved through Traffic and Engineering Department. They study those areas extensively before they make that kind of decision. So if that's something that someone feels like they want to inquire about for their neighborhood, or they feel like it's deemed necessary, they would need to contact the Traffic and Engineering Department at City Hall, and they could study the area to determine if that's appropriate.
Here's another question from a listener similar to that one. They say that in some of the areas they've noticed you put the radar units that give you a flashback of how fast you're going. Mm-hmm. Does that have the same effect that a calming device would have?
It does help. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know that we've done any kind of empirical research to determine if they're equivalent, but a lot of times it's just enough. When you see that flashing speed, it's just awareness, because a lot of times people don't realize that they're speeding, but when that comes up and tells them like that, it's kind of a little bit of a, I guess, attention, and they're like, oh, I need to slow down, so it does work for some. I can tell you that for others it doesn't, just because where we've seen some of those that we have, they actually track data to show you the speeds that were observed during that time period, and sometimes people obviously just ignore it because we've seen some pretty high numbers on that, but for a lot, it does help.
Here's an interesting comment from a listener. This one says, we have a 30 mile per hour speed limit on the road that I live on. It's a very heavily traveled road, and the city just put in a third lane in the middle, which makes it a whole lot easier to get on and off the road. But I try to obey the speed limit, and I can look behind me as I'm coming down the road at 30 to 31 or so miles an hour, and there are usually 5 or 6 cars lined up behind me. And as I turn onto my street from this street, I can see the cars whirl around me almost as if they're angry that I was going the speed limit. Are you finding that is that the
people
attitude?
angry driving? Yes, absolutely. I mean,
don't go.
They're
furious.
Yeah,
it sounds like.
I'll give you an example. The accident that Larry talked about yesterday out on Church Street, it had traffic kind of. I mean, it was messed up just because they were trying to clean up a spill, and it was 4:30 in the afternoon. And there's a lot of people travel that stretch of highway that time of day. Me and my wife were trying to go to dinner, and I had to go through that way, and we took our time, but we were just watching some of the things that people were doing, and we were just commenting on, it wasn't anything reckless per se, but just totally inconsiderate of everybody else. And it's like, hey, we're all here, we're all in the same mess, but folks, when they get behind the wheel, it's almost like in what we sometimes call keyboard courage. People that'll say things from behind a computer, that they probably wouldn't say in person because that's out of character for them, and they're typically a pretty, courteous person. But something about behind that wheel, when people are trying to get where they're going, that sometimes goes out the window, and people get stressed out and they get angry, and it makes them make poor decisions. For example, we saw lots of lane blocking and people trying to pull out in front of somebody else to get just a little bit ahead, and again, it's really difficult. This is going to sound kumbaya, if you will. It's really difficult on everyone when that kind of thing occurs, and if you want to be in a community where that's not happening, then remember that when you're driving, and be exemplary. And just like this person, I know it's frustrating because he said he got passed, and I totally understand that and totally agree, but it's like being the example and doing the right thing is always going to impact other people at some point. It may just take longer for them to get there, but yeah, the folks that drive, and we know it's congested, and we know there's a lot of traffic during the peak times. We understand that, and we're look at our growth rate, and I mean, those things are going to happen. But we just, anything everybody else can do to just take a little more time, remain calm, act civilly, be considerate of your neighbor, because that's who we're all around at the same time. I mean, they probably wouldn't do that if they knew who that person was in the car beside them, or if it was a family member, but they don't know who it is. So it kind of takes that anonymity and just becomes less of a person at that point to them, and that's sad. So,
as you were saying that, I was thinking, this is not limited to the smaller roads. I mean, he's saying it's a 30-mile speed limit. Yeah. If he wasn't there, they'd probably be going 40-something.
Right.
But if you're on the interstate and it's a 70-mile-an-hour speed limit, I'll bet you they're going 80 to 90.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so it doesn't matter where it is or what the speed limit is. People want to go faster.
Yeah, it's I don't know what it's a testament, I'll be honest with you, to engineering, and also in this aspect, maybe the capacity isn't there, but the design and the engineering of vehicles, the safety, because just when people drive over that kind of rate of speed, and when a crash does occur, I'm surprised we don't have more fatalities than we do. And a lot of these people walk away and survive. Well, thank goodness. But it's just sad that it takes something that extreme of event for people to have kind of a wake-up call, if you will.
Here's a listener who's asking, is it because we just don't give ourselves enough time? We're slow getting off in the morning, whether we're going to work, taking the kids to school. We are always running behind, and we're always in a hurry.
I think he hit it on the head. I don't know that I could say it any better. I mean, and to his point, that's where you have to look at. It's not the other person's fault that you're being held up. It's maybe you didn't leave early enough, or maybe you didn't get things out of the house enough. So I think the more we can turn that inward, that would help.
I hate to bring this up.
Uh-oh.
Red light cameras. That's what that's all about.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of places, Bart, are looking at. I'm seeing communities in the state. They're actually getting into the speed enforcement cameras again. There's companies out there that are doing that, and I think.
How is that different from red light cameras? I mean, as far as the public accepting it.
Well, where they're primarily doing it in Tennessee, where I think most people are accepting of it, they're really targeting school zones doing that. And I think most folks can be okay with, like, hey, if you're driving, 10, 15 miles over the speed limit in a school zone, you should be held accountable. So I think that's a little more palatable to the public. And I don't know that, because if we'll see it get into the major thoroughfares, we'll see. It's something we watch and monitor. And if it's something that we feel like is useful here, then but that's not something that's it's not on the immediate horizon. And I think the big thing is it's still a lot like with the cameras on the red lights. I think the problem is there's not anything to ultimately hold the person accountable if they don't pay the citation. If you remember, that was a lot of the problems that we had here, and the reason why, because there was no way, if people decided not to pay the citation, you couldn't hold them accountable other than civilly. You couldn't do anything about it, and that was frustrating because the people the normal everyday good citizens, if they happened to them, they would pay, but then the folks, if you would, the hardened criminal, if you would, they wouldn't. And so that would be something that have to be in the legislature to where they could turn that into an actual criminal offense. But
how do they handle it in other states? I mean, is this
it's a good question.
Problem with Tennessee, or? It's
a good question. I don't know enough about the other states' regulation as far as their statutes on those things. I would have to do some research on that, but that might be something that maybe in the future we have to talk about.
General Assembly is meeting right now.
Yeah.
And this is when they make new laws.
That's right.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We're News Radio WGNS 100.5, 101.9, 1450. Online and on your phone at WGNSradio.com.
Holden Hardware now has an e-commerce site. Go to doitbest.com/Holden-hardware and shop all the items in our warehouse. You can have them shipped directly to you, or most items can be shipped for free to Holden Hardware for pickup. Shop with
big.
In today's changing world, you need a financial planner that you're comfortable with. Rely on the bonds that you've built with trusted friends at Old National Bank on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard here in the borough. And if you just moved here, visit us and enjoy warm, homemade cookies.
Honey, the cookies are ready.
Like Grandma used to make. Old National Bank. We're better together.
2230 Dr. MLK Jr. Boulevard. Old National Bank, member FDIC.
Hi, this is Jenny with Ryan Flowers Coffee and Gifts. Ryan's has been here for almost 100 years serving the community. I feel so blessed when families ask us to help them say goodbye to their family. I do everything that I can to make it just perfect for your final goodbye. Give us a call and we'll make that memorial tribute for your loved one and family. Ryan Flowers Coffee and Gifts, 615-893-7134. 117 South Academy Street,
We're loud, we're proud, we're blue. WGNS AM and FM, your home for the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders.
Welcome back. Happy birthday, by the way, to Terry Tyndall. Terry Tyndall is our winner of that delicious banana pudding from Slick Pig Barbecue. Terry Tyndall, our birthday winner today. Also, the good neighbor today is Micah Kistler. Micah Kistler, the person who nominated Micah, said, always there to help, drops everything just to help somebody else. That's pretty neat. Micah Kistler will be receiving flowers from Jenny Harrison and the family at Ryan Flowers Coffee and Gifts. Nice folks over there at Ryan's Flowers Coffee and Gifts. Go by and see them, won't you? They have exactly what you're looking to sort of perk up and make happy. Somebody that you want to make happy. You know where they are, don't you? 117 South Academy Street. Larry Flowers, have a question for you.
Sure.
You're working on some areas, and you've gotten some people asking questions about schools, and I know that's one of the real concerns with Murfreesboro Police, keeping the schools safer traffic-wise and things of that sort. We were talking during that last break, and you brought up something. Share with us.
Sure. We have a traffic complaint form on our website that people can, if they see any traffic violations, just simply go to www.murfreesborotn.gov/MPD. And right there on the home page, you see report a traffic complaint. You just simply click that, and you can type in your information. As a matter of fact, as we were just sitting here, I just got a traffic email alert from a resident that was complaining about a car when did not stop for the school bus. Even though the school bus had a stop sign out, the children had gotten on the bus, but before the kids could have an opportunity to sit down, this driver went ahead and proceeded and pretty much ran that stop sign. I can tell you that Lieutenant Zachary Farrell in our traffic unit, once they get these type complaints, he would set officers in those particular areas to try to watch. But, when you see a police car out there, typically these drivers are going to obey, the traffic laws. So hopefully this will be a deterrent once they do see those cars out there. So that's what's going on now. So basically you can simply log onto the website, file a traffic complaint, and if you would like for an officer to call you back or respond back to you, you can leave your information, and Lieutenant Zachary Farrell, and I tell you, they answer each and every one of these traffic complaints that comes through our city.
One thing that I think a lot of people still are not aware of, there are several people who are not aware, and that is, when do you stop for a school bus? It's not every time, but it's right. Specific things.
Right. Typically, like say for instance, you're on a 4-lane road with a turn lane, and there is no median. Drivers going both directions are required to stop. But if there's a median, or say for instance a line of trees down the middle, like on Medical Center Parkway, if a school bus stopped on one side, the traffic on the opposite side can continue to flow. But again, the easiest thing to remember, if it's just simply a turn lane, and even though you have multiple lanes on each side, drivers in both directions are required to stop. Oftentimes our traffic unit will go out and they will put officers actually on school buses. And the officer will have a radio, and he will have officers in the area. So when they see someone running that stop sign, they will simply radio, and that way they can get that car stopped, and more than 9 times out of 10 will cite that driver. But a lot of times we try to educate the drivers. Hey, this is why you were stopped. You did not stop for the stop sign, and it's that stop sign, as long as it's out, regardless if the child has got on that bus, you're required to wait until that stop sign goes back in and the bus driver proceeds.
And when I was a kid, those stop signs were small.
Right.
These are big. I mean, they're what, 8 feet, 10 feet long.
They're fairly large, so you can't say they're not visible and use that as an excuse to try to get out of a ticket.
So be aware of that. And these tickets get your attention, I would imagine.
They definitely do. Do not know the actual fine, but there is a fine in city court if you are committed, if you're in violation of a traffic violation within the school zone.
Larry, we have about a minute left in our broadcast this morning, and since you are the public information officer, you have the pulse of what's happening news-wise in the community. What do you think is our biggest issue right now? Is it traffic? Is it crime? What is it?
You know, traffic definitely is one of our biggest issues in our city. I'll often tell people I can leave the police department on North Highland Street at 5 o'clock, and my wife can leave Franklin at 5, and she will beat me home. Simply because of all the stoplights and traffic in our city. But of course,
and you live not that far away.
I live on the west side, so.
But she can beat you home from Franklin.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's actually crazy. But, again, we want to be mindful of our retail thefts. You often see people going into like Walmart or different places like that, shoplifting and things of that nature. So, these merchants have to be aware. And, I think you brought up once before on here about, all the problems we used to have at Victoria's Secret. But once that store rearranged their store where they didn't have items right at the door where somebody can just walk in, grab a handful of items and run away, it's up to these merchants to be accountable as well. They can hire off-duty security to help, and things of that nature. So, police can't be everywhere at the same time. So, these business owners have to be accountable too.